Hi, my name is Lisa and I work at the Watauga County Public Library in the mountains of North Carolina. And today I wanted to do a goat story time with you. And first I wanted to show you 3 books that I've enjoyed about goats. The first is G is for Goat by Patricia Polacco. This goes all the way through the alphabet and it's a rhyming story. There's a Billy Goat in the Garden, Puerto Rican tale, and the 3 Billy Goats Buenos by Susan Middleton Elya. I like this story because it's a little different from the traditional story, has a different ending from the regular 3 Billy Goats Gruff, and the author intersperses some Spanish words throughout the story, and it is also a rhyming story. All right, well, before we get started with our goat activities, I wanted to tell you something I learned about goats while I was preparing for this story time. So the first thing I wanted to show you is, this is a person's eye, and the black part is called a pupil. What is the shape of the black part of this eye? It's a circle, isn't it? Well, it turns out that the pupil of a goat is not a circle. What shape do you think it is? Let's see if you're right. Did you guess a rectangle? I was so surprised to learn that the pupil of a goat's eye is a rectangle. And something I thought was kind of interesting, Patricia Polacco actually grew up with goats. In Patricia Polacco's book, the pupils of the goats are rectangles. Now, there's a Billy Goat in the Garden. This story was illustrated by sewing pictures, and so they just sewed a bead for the eyes so that pupils look round. And in the 3 Billy Goats Buenos, they also drew the eyes as circles. But when you meet a goat in real life, now you will know that that goat will have a rectangle for a pupil. Well, let's get started with some of our other goat activities for our goat story time. The first thing I thought we would do is learn a song about a silly Billy Goat who eats clothes off the line. And we're gonna do it, we're gonna sing this song using a little bit of sign language. So the sign language for goat is take 2 fingers and curl them a little bit, and you're gonna touch your chin and then put your hand on your forehead. This is like the goat's beard and horns, okay? So that's for Billy Goat. And then, let's see, this silly Billy Goat is gonna eat the clothes off the line to start with, all right? And then we'll name some individual pieces of clothing. I think you'll catch on quickly to the tune, so sing it along with me and do as much of the sign language as you can. You ready? My silly Billy Goat eats clothes off the line, clothes off the line, clothes off the line. My silly Billy Goat eats clothes off the line as soon as I hang them up. All right, now the silly Billy Goat is going to eat shirts. You can just tug on your shirt, and pants. You kind of make the leg of one leg on your pair of pants, and then the leg of the other side of the pair of pants, all right? My silly Billy Goat eats shirts and pants, shirts and pants, shirts and pants. My silly Billy Goat eats shirts and pants as soon as I hang them up. All right, the next verse is my silly Billy Goat eats socks and shoes. Now, I don't usually hang my shoes up on the line, but occasionally I have had to. So socks is just doing your 2 fingers like you're walking, and shoes is just hitting your 2 fists together like one shoe and the other shoe are sitting side by side. My silly Billy Goat eats socks and shoes, socks and shoes, socks and shoes. My silly Billy Goat eats socks and shoes as soon as I hang them up. All right, and the last verse is my silly Billy Goat eats coats and hats, or hats and coats, right? So here's how that verse looks. My silly Billy Goat eats hats and coats, hats and coats. Hats and coats, my silly Billy Goat eats hats and coats as soon as I hang them up. Good job. All right, I am going to tell you the story, There's a Billy Goat in the Garden, a Puerto Rican folktale. Next. In the song we just sang, the Billy Goat was eating some silly things like hats and coats and socks and shoes. But in this story, the Billy Goat is going to be in the garden eating some pretty healthy things. Billy Goats like silly things and they like healthy things too. So here is our goat in the garden eating corn and tomatoes and bell peppers. And throughout this story, I'm going to need you to repeat after me, or repeat with me. There's a Billy Goat in the garden and he will not come out. Can you say that? There's a Billy Goat in the garden and he will not come out. Good. And then you also need to say the phrase, I'm bigger. You have to stick this behind the Billy Goat a little bit. I'm bigger. All right, so the story starts out where we say, there's a Billy Goat in the garden and he will not come out. Well, the very self-confident rooster says, I can chase that goat out. And he flutters all about, but that huffy, gruffy Billy Goat will not come out. So the rooster says to the dog, there's a Billy Goat in the garden and he will not come out. And the dog says, I'm bigger. I can chase that goat out. And so the dog yip yaps all about, but that haughty, naughty Billy Goat will not come out. So the dog says to the pig, there's a Billy Goat in the garden and he will not come out. And the pig says, I'm bigger. And he grunts all about, but that fighting, biting Billy Goat will not come out. So the pig says to the donkey, there's a Billy Goat in the garden and he will not come out. The donkey says, I'm bigger. Hee-haw. And he clip-clops all about, but that dancing, prancing Billy Goat will not come out. Oh dear. So now the donkey says to the cow, there's a Billy Goat in the garden and he will not come out. And what does the cow say? I'm bigger, moos the cow. And she bustles all about. But that surly, burly Billy Goat will not come out. So the cow says to the horse, there's a Billy Goat in the garden, moo, and he will not come out. And what does the horse say? I'm bigger, neighs the horse, and he gallops all about. But that stomping, tromping Billy Goat will not come out. Now all the animals say together, there's a Billy Goat in the garden and he will not come out. Oh, this next animal comes buzzing all about. Watch me, says the tiny bee. Oh, you're too tiny, laugh the other animals, and they snicker, snort, and shout. You silly itty-bitty bee, you can't chase that Billy Goat out. But the bee buzzes all about, And zip, ooh, that crashing, thrashing Billy Goat, he does come out. So what do you think? Do you have to be the biggest to be able to have the solution to a problem? Not necessarily. Let's sing another song about goats. And this song is going to be about different names for goats. We're going to start with the name goat, then we're going to go to the name Billy, which is one of the names for a boy goat, Billy or Buck. Then we're going to go to Nanny, which is the name of a female goat, Nanny or Doe. And then we're going to use the word for young goats, which is kids, kind of like you. And in this song, we're going to do some rhyming. And we've got some actions, some movement to do as well. So if you want to follow along, I hope you'll join in with me. So here's how the song goes. Down by the bay, where the watermelons grow, back to my home, I dare not go, for if I do, my mother will say, did you ever see a goat wearing a coat down by the bay? And I did find a picture of a real goat wearing a coat. All right, let's sing our next verse. Down by the bay, where the watermelons grow, back to my home, I dare not go, for if I do, my mother will say, did you ever see a Billy eating a lily down by the bay? Down by the bay, where the watermelons grow, back to my home, I dare not go, for if I do, my mother will say, did you ever see a nanny snoring like granny? Down by the bay, down by the bay, where the watermelons grow, back to my home, I dare not go, for if I do, my mother will say, did you ever see some kids flipping their lids down by the bay? All right, I hope you'll look in the Show More section down below this video for some fun crafts and more books and songs to read and sing. And that's all I've got for you today for this goat story time. So in the words of Tigger, ta-ta for now. Be sure to click on the words Show More underneath this video to access links to more fun activities that go along with this story time.